Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're all doing well, and welcome to the showdown between the Empire and the High Elves. It's going to be myself with Marcus Wolfhart facing off against Subutai, who's going to be coming in with the, I believe, Caster of Fire. Most likely going to be trying to sneak in there with Armor of the Stars to take down the Sunmaker. But guys, today we're going to be rejecting the Sunmaker and embracing the dreaded Mortar, which I actually do think on certain maps can be really, really good. And the thing about the Sunmaker is you put all your marbles in one basket. You make one misplay, the High Elves manage to sneak back there and take down the Sunmaker, you're probably going to lose the game. But if you're going with a bunch of mortars, which only cost 600 apiece, and do something relatively similar, not quite as devastating, but over the course of a long game, they can grind you good value, I think it's a little bit of a safer bet on certain maps, and I do think this is one of the maps. So frontline's going to be Spearman, backed up by Marcus, as well as a Light Wizard. This is like the standard kit you go for in terms of heroes if you want to protect like backfield artillery, right? We saw in a recent tournament that somebody did it with 4 Hellblaster volley guns, having a very similar composition, and it's certainly the right direction to go. Handgunners in the back. Now, handgunners do get wrecked by High Elf archers, but the whole formula of this build is you move the spearmen up, right? And then the archers are going to start shooting at the spears. The mortars kill the archers, and then when they try and dive your artillery in the back, the handgunners are waiting for them in the deeps. So it's kind of a little bit of a cat and mouse there, and that is basically my whole build. For Subutai, like I said, this is like the most standard stuff. You always see an Archmage of some sort, fire in this case, and they use Armor of the Stars to become invisible, and you know it's basically impossible to stop them from getting close to you. You can punish them once they appear, but they're going to get there and cast their spell, and then they use Burning Head to take out the Sunmaker, because the Sunmaker counters a lot of the High Elf roster pretty effectively. The old meta was like wagons with like Sunmaker. I wouldn't even say old meta, but the contemporary meta, and clearly people are prepared for it, so I think kind of mixing it up every now and then can be strong. Here we do have Shadow Warriors into the sunset. Shadow Warriors are interesting against the Empire. Empire does have lightly armored state troopers, and obviously if they can sneak up on your artillery, like your mortars, and get close enough to shoot them down, it can do good work. They'll also counter handgunners, but are going to be very vulnerable against heavy cavalry. Backline's going to be spearmen and some archers, and that is pretty much it. So let's see if the Sons of Sigmar and their blessed mortars can get through this dreaded High Elf shenanigans. So Armor of the Stars is active. It's a crazy good item. It basically makes the character invisible for 50, I think it's like 60 seconds when you first cast it. No, 73 seconds, insane. So yeah, he's going to be able to kind of creep around. We'll do some fast forwarding, and you'll notice I'm trying to screen. I'm like setting my netcasters out and having Marcus go up in the front, but he ends up going right down the middle here, and I spot him like just now, but he's going to be able to get a Burning Head off. But the thing is, these are just mortars, right? So even if the mortars do get hit by burning heads, it's not a huge deal. Granted, that was a really good cast on his part. I do partially dodge it, so the handgunner is going to be able to get away, and the burning head is going to nail that mortar crew pretty badly. So those guys get roasted, but you know, they're still going to be going. I mean, they might break for a second, but they'll come back, and we do chase away the Light Wizard, but sneaky birds there coming in with the burning heads of doom. So objective going to be pressed by the Spearmen. Spearmen up on the point. 4 Shadow Warriors going to be shooting forward, but it's actually, I wouldn't say like cost effective per se, but it's not a bad trade to have your Spearmen with their shields absorbing the shots. It's much better than them shooting your handgunners or your other, you know, high value targets. On the side point, we get Shadow Warriors creeping up, and what they're probably going to be trying to do is get close to the mortar here and put a little bit of pressure on that. So objectives are now open, so I'll be capturing Objective 1 and Objective 2 here most likely. But the Shadow Warriors are going to sneak up, and that's the thing. They got stock, they can ambush you, a very, very cool unit, and I could potentially lose this mortar if I'm not careful. I was trying to get back here and shoot these archers, and they are in range, but the Shadow Warriors do reveal themselves by shooting at the Spearmen on their first move order, so that gives me a little bit of time to react. As one mortar's in okay shape, and now is going to be unleashing hell on the archers back here. Spearmen just kind of hanging out on the objective. And silver bullets are going to be creeping back here to just make sure nothing gets too crazy in my backfield. We do call out war wagons. I wanted to make sure I had the advantage in terms of the cavalry fight. So if he brought in any cav, these things are pretty good at shooting them down in tandem with the Empire Knights. So a little bit of handgun fire, not bad. Put some hurt on the Shadow Warriors here. But this is where we're going to be getting an MLG sneaky Sigmarite play. Nice Shadow Warrior volley from Subutai. You can see they're doing good value for him so far. We do move in the Light Wizard on his horse, and instead of netting down one of the archers, we're going to be netting down the Spearmen here, which is really the play, because then the Spearmen are going to be locked, and it's going to allow these brave Sons of Sigmar to lance down the Shadow Warriors, and the Spearmen aren't going to be able to get there to protect them as easily. So we get there, we punish the Shadow Warriors. They take a pretty substantial charge. Mortar fire starting to saturate in. These Shadow Warriors taking some good damage. Look at that. Like, the other archer got taken out by like a single mortar shot, so really not bad. I mean, I know it's not as flashy as the Sunmaker, but it certainly tries its best. So a couple Spearmen moving up on the point, just going to be pulling back and unleashing handgunner fire on them, and you can see it's doing some respectable damage. They do have silver shield, so it's not the easiest. Looks like the bird was thinking about going over there, but does pop Armor of the Stars once again, and a Burning Head is going to be going down. I do try and dodge it by pulling back. Even still, it does some okay damage, but really it hasn't been terribly devastating this game. And these Empire Knights, I pretty much just committed them. I know they're tanky, and I want to shut down as many Shadow Warriors as I can. These ones are going down here. These ones are going down. And, you know, even if I lose these Empire Knights back here, it's going to be 2 Shadow Warriors already taken down for the price of 1 Empire Knight, which is like basically a double trade. Empire Knights cost just over 800, and Shadow Warriors cost around that much as well. So, yeah, great stuff. Going to be jumping on the other archers here. And in the back, the counterplay to my heavy cavalry is going to be Sisters of Avalorn. So they'll certainly be able to put some hurt on the Empire Knights, and probably will be able to peel them off over time. In the backfield, a couple spearmen trying to push back here, and the handgunners of Sigmar ripping some fat shots and shooting them in the back as they do run. Honorable stuff indeed. War Wagons also providing a little bit of buffering, and I did notice he was lurking here. And this is something I like about Domination, how like not objectives, but terrain can come into play and be a factor in terms of tactics. And it's like you're able to do it because of the nature of the objectives. Whereas, you know, more so in land battle, it would be kind of, you know, I guess like using the forest and different terrain pieces. You know, most maps are flat and open and might have a little bit of terrain, but in the backside, Archmage of Fire going to be creeping around, looking to drop another Burning Head, and we're going to be sending the Man-Tide up. So we do have our Swordsman, our Handgunner starting to creep back up, and we are pulling a respectable value lead. Neither of us have healing, so it is a true value situation. And the mortars still just raining hot fire consistently. I believe I have all 4 mortars online, which are now ranging into the archer units, so you can see those ones were dodged right there. But there's going to be a lot of shielded units coming up, and we don't have too many good targets for all the Shadow Warriors to shoot outside the handgunners and the mortar teams. So my gun's just waiting here. I saw his bird flying around in the bushes, so I just decided to kind of camp out there and wait. And the Man-Tide will be arriving soon. He did actually flip the capture weight for a moment, but when the state troopers get here, the Swordsman and company, excuse me, should be pretty good. So these archers getting pounded, those archers also being pushed back by the mortar fire. You can see it's incremental. Here it looks like there's going to be a bit of a push from some Silverin Guard and some basic archers. But we do call in some Empire Knights, which we're going to be trying to creep behind and get on those archers. And also these handgunners are going to start shooting at the Silverin Guard, which if you shoot them in the side or back, you can actually get good DPS because the shields won't be providing the 55% block chance. So that actually ends up being relatively cost effective as they are slightly out of position. But I do blunder and accident. I charged the Knights into the Silverins. I saw them in transition, figured they wouldn't have their charge defense, but I ended up charging into Brave Spears because my micro is focused elsewhere. Now back here on Objective 1, Elves moving in with some White Lines of Crace, which will obviously dominate Swordsmen in combat. But the Swordsmen are just absorbing the shots and slowly withering down the ammunition of the Shadow Warriors, and that mortar fire is really, really adding up. You notice all the archers are very, very tattered, and it's going to be mitigating, you know, their staying power, of course, and the amount of damage they're going to be putting out. Here in the bushes, the Elf Lord does move over here, and the Archmage, I do get a net. I was kind of waiting for it, and now all guns are going to be unleashing, but who would have thought the dreaded trees would be so strong? 2 volleys from just basically 2 handgunner units. We barely scratched the surface of this Archmage. That felt pretty bad. I was like, man, that sucks. Archmage able to endure that, and yeah, the tree was able to block a lot of my shots, and also the staggering animation on the bird is blocking a fair amount of shots, so we really didn't do much damage. That felt pretty bad. So calling in the big hammer, I felt like I was ahead, and you know, when I'm ahead, I like to go for a hammer piece, whether it be Chaos Knights or Demogryph Knights in this case, and they're going to be getting in there and just trying to clean up whatever they can, bring some armor piercing to the table. And yeah, the mortars are starting to wear everything down. I mean, really, a lot of the High Elf units on this side are extremely tattered. Here we get a couple spearmen coming in to try and take my objective and push back my guns, but they do get rear charged by some Empire Knights, and now we're going to be getting the dreaded sandwich with these spearmen, so it shouldn't be too much of an issue to kind of force them back. But the High Elves are doing a good job pressing, and this objective in the middle looks like it could flip, and in the back, the Archmage getting greedy, potentially for the last time. I'm going to be seeing this one, and I believe I have another net coming. It looks like the Archmage does land here. And I end up actually using the net over on the White Lines of Crace. That's right, yeah, I was worried about my gun line being pushed. So we net them down, and we get a lot of gunfire. So the handgunners right here and handgunners here. It's so fun, like, using true Sigmarite. I mean, the wagons are still true Sigmarite powder, but using, like, OG handgunners is really, really fun. I mean, it takes a little bit more effort to protect them, but their DPS certainly can be quite good. So we net these bad boys down, and fire, reload, fire is the order for the state troopers as our floppy hats of doom put fire into these arrogant High Elves here in the front, as the White Lines of Crace do get caught in Marcus's net as well, so those bad boys are going to be locked down pretty badly. And in the back, we just have a single wagon screening out the Archmage. Now on this side, a bit of an Elven push coming in, so Subutai on the offense here. As the Sisters of Avalorn and double archers move up, I do start to get pressed pretty heavily on this objective. So you'll then see me grab pretty much every single mortar and switch them onto the Sisters of Avalorn to try and start wearing them down, because if those things are allowed to sit and shoot, it's going to be a bit of a problem. They're very, very strong. So White Lines of Crace do get worn down. The other White Lines of Crace are going to be on their way in. And a unit I like to keep in reserve against High Elves are actually Halberdiers. They have decent combat stats at 26 and 42 and armor piercing, and are okay against High Elf monsters. Really weak against archer play. But since most of the archers are super tattered, I figured bringing in some Halberds wouldn't be a bad idea at this point. So I usually bring 2 in this build. And they're going to be hanging in there. But in the backside, it's looking a little bit dicey. Elves might actually be able to take my back objective, and I could be triple capped, which would certainly not be fun. Granted, I do have a big value lead, 7,000 to about, it's only about 2,300, so not insane, but still good enough to certainly take some ground here. Brave State Troopers trying to hold on to the objective, battling Silver and Guard, and here we're going to be getting some Empire Knights moving in, and Demogryph Knights as well. So the Hammer of Sigmar is coming on the flank. We're going to be getting a double cavalry charge. So the first unit going to be getting run down by the Demogryph Knights here, those archers, and the other unit is going to be getting Empire Knights right to the face. So Sisters of Avalorn having a pretty bad time there. Empire Knights pack a little bit of a punch, especially if you're moving into them. So Sisters of Avalorn get absolutely steamrolled, and now I saw a bit of an opportunity on the map. I realized I was under pressure and needed to get points back. So we grabbed both Empire Knights as well as the Demis, and we're just going to go grab objective number 3. The Elven forces are very, very tattered. Sisters of Avalorn just absolutely hammered and taken down here. And these Spearmen should be able to hold the back point as more Empire Knights do come out from reserves. And Marcus and company just trying to hold back the old White Lines of Grace, and Halberdier's not doing bad. You know, they're getting in there, they're taking out models, and look, it's not a beauty contest. The White Lines of Grace, of course, would win it. My opponent trying to force path the White Lines of Grace through the Halberdiers, but the Halberdiers able to hold them back for the most part, drag down a lot of models, and those bad boys are going to be paying ye old Choltol. So Mortars shooting across the field, and they have cleaned up the last of the archer units there. As the Spearmen probably going to be able to take care of those archers. More Spearmen in the back on the way, and the back pressure is going to be successful here as the Empire Knights and Demogryph Knights are going to grab this objective. And really the Elven army here in the backfield really comprises of a couple Shadow Warriors who are very, very low health, and some, you know, White Lines of Grace over here who, of course, are doing a good job defeating swordsmen. Big accomplishment for them, for sure. But the Halberdiers and the Gunfire are able to use their combined arms to take down the backfield threat. And now we're going to start moving up on this objective as the Hammer of Sigmar is going to be taking off once again. So Demogryph Knights are going to be pulling back. I didn't want to risk any weirdness on this back objective since it was lightly defended. So the Demogryph Knights are going to be heading towards objective 2, actually, and clearing out the scraps. And the Empire Knights are just going to be going balls deep into the backfield here. So one Empire Knight runs over those units, and we're going to be moving through the Silver and Guard to get on the Shadow Warriors here. And the other Shadow Warriors are certainly going to be on the table. Spearmen on the objective still holding. But we got the gun position. Both of these handgunners are going to be back online shooting in a moment. And only one grenade launcher. Grenade launchers are risky against High Elves because of the prevalence of Reavers, as well as their archer range. But if you bring one in a late game, like kind of chaos situation like this, it can be good because most of the archers have been effectively shut down. Grenades with huge damage against those guys, man. Absolutely brutal. They're going to continue getting flattened as the capture weight's going to be shifting to our favor. Empire Knights basically rampaging in the backfield. And the Archmage of Fire has been resummoned again, but I don't think that's going to be enough. Back objective looking very safe. This objective, a little bit of pressure from some Shadow Warriors, but the Empire Knights and Demis going to be returning, and Demogryph Knights looking super cool. They're like Old Faithful. There's been a lot of cool units in the DLCs, but these guys have been badass since game 1, and they're going to continue on their power here. So -7 leadership there. The Shadow Warriors going to be getting flattened, and that is basically going to be GG. It's more or less a full rout here in the middle. You can see we're going to be pushing back these White Lines of Grace with the grenades, and Burning Head going down right there. The bird does land to attack Marcus Wolfheart, but we drop a net on that bad boy and just start shooting it with the handgunners, and the backfield is just being dominated by the heavy cavalry. So Sigmar blessed. I'm telling you, the Sunmaker is really good, but everybody expects it now. So sometimes, you know, you can find something that does something similar. It might not be quite as fancy or optimal at all times, but in a game like this, I think if I had gone Sunmaker, he sneaks back there, he gets one good Burning Head, like he did. He slipped away from me too. And you don't get their Lord for that trade, you basically are going to lose the game, right? Sunmaker is your answer against all those archers. But the 4 Mortars, they get one really good Burning Head. They might kill one, and even if they do, it's only 600 gold, and you still have a functional anti-archer line. So give it a try. Go off meta sometimes. Have some fun. It can work. Marcus and the Netcaster, they did their job. Mortars, you know, they cost what? 600 gold? So 700 here, 1400. This one's 700, and the other one's 750. That is a great performance. That is really, really solid. And the handgunners were good. They held the backfield. They also put some pressure on the advancing units when they overextended. Empire Knights doing their humble job for Sigmar. Wagons were, you know, always a good inclusion. I like mixing them in. And yeah, overall, I really like the build. Now, I don't think it would work on a lot of maps. I think that map is very, like, it has a couple choke points and narrow kind of alleys with which to fight. So I think it worked well there. On a bigger map, it could have been more precarious to defend them. But again, you adjust to the map. That's something about domination. Usually, more so, like I was saying in land battle, like in land battle, most of my Empire builds were pretty uniform. It didn't change too much based on the map because most maps in the old school land battle, I don't know about nowadays, but they're mostly flat and open, like Oaken Shield type maps, Oaken Hammer, you know, those type of things, right? So you could use similar builds. You would still adjust, like if you're on a map like Pillar of Bone, which is super small compared to like a big Chungus map, like Blue Reach River, but generally they were similar. But in Dom, it's you got to change your builds up based on the maps. It's a huge, huge variable for sure. Anyways, guys, hopefully you enjoyed. We'll see you on the other side. Take care of yourself. As far as the high elf build goes, I thought the Shadow Warriors were cool. Definitely cut the Shadow Walkers. I think you need some cavalry in this matchup, like Reavers. It was more of an infantry kind of heavy build with some dragon support in the back, which was cool. But yeah, you need Reavers. Reavers to shut down handgunners, to dive my artillery, to really press me when I'm vulnerable, I think is super essential. So That's it, guys. Take care of yourself. See you next time. And that's going to be it for tonight.